Hey everybody, my name is Paul Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to the Jet Zone right here on Sports War Radio, and we're streaming live simultaneously right now in three different places: Facebook.com/the Jet Zone, Twitter at the Jets_zone, and like I said, on YouTube as well. So we're all over the place, and we're here for another episode of the Jet Zone, which is a weekly New York Jets podcast, talking all things New York Jets and everything else that will happen to be going on here on the show. So make sure you guys interact with the show, ask your questions, ask your topics. We're going to be live here for the next little bit. You can hop in wherever you're watching, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And like I said, you can throw your question in the chat, throw a topic of conversation you'd like to see addressed, and we'll try to get to each and every one of you here on the show, which I'm super excited about. We got a phenomenal show for you guys today. And the topic of today's show is it comeback season for Mekhi Becton, Denzel Mims, and Carl Lawson? What the hootenanny? We'll be talking about all of it, with all of them for different reasons getting in the news cycle this week. So we'll be talking about all that on the show, some Jets draft nuggets. And folks, I do want to start off the show with this. I just had a surprise interview. Now, for anyone who's a fan of this show on YouTube, you know that I do this show called Mock Draft Monday. Every Monday, I talk to a different cool insider from the draft, from the Jets beat, or where have you. We'll have one of those guests on the show. And normally I schedule those guests throughout the week. We find a good time, do an interview, and it posts every Monday at 8 a.m. However, history was made this week because on last week's episode, we had John Ledyard, who's a great guy. You guys should follow him on Twitter at Ledyard NFL Draft. We had him on the show on Monday's show. You guys can check that out. But in it, we talked about Trayvon Walker, the Georgia pass rusher, the interesting player, pass rusher in quotes, at least for me, on Trayvon Walker. And to me, as a Jets guy, Trayvon Walker is one of the players I absolutely don't want as a Jets fan. Because to me, here's my take, and I'll explain the cool story that just happened this week, is for me, I feel like all the pass rush is projection. We didn't see it. Georgia didn't ask him to do it. We didn't see it. However, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So now we're looking at traits and things that we're projecting of what he can do based on a lot of things. And to me, that's scary. That's a scary investment to make inside the top 10 if you're the New York Jets. When you need pieces to be slam dunks, you need home run picks. You don't need projections. You don't need guesses. Well, however, okay, so so after we do the interviews, we send out clips on Twitter. Like I'll say, oh, look, John Ledyard said this. You can watch the show down here. So it's kind of a promo, but also kind of a cool snippet from the show. And someone saw this week's snippet, and that was Tony Pauline of the Pro Football Network. He saw my snippet and said, hey, I think you guys are wrong on Trayvon Walker, and I'd love to come on your show to talk about it. I went, whoa. Guests normally don't reach out to me to come on the show. And normally they're busy people, and I have to reach out to them to try to coordinate with them. But interestingly, history was made on this very program. Tony Pauline of the Pro Football Network reached out to moi and said, hey, I want to come on your show and talk to Jet fans about Trayvon Walker. That conversation was just recorded before I went live here on the Jet Zone. And depending on what happens, we may drop that one early. Okay, normally I save those for Mondays, but it's only a Wednesday here. Maybe I could drop a freebie episode for you guys a little early. There were some interesting scoops on who Tony Pauline is hearing the Jets are targeting in the draft. They had that great Trayvon Walker conversation. So, guys, I may have a sneaky extra interview for you guys. So keep that in mind. Again, for me, prior to our conversation with Tony Pauline, which again is floating in the ethos, it has not been released yet, but I thought it was a really interesting conversation. And he reached out to me. He said, I'd love to join your show. And I said, sure. Okay. Tony Pauline's a big name in the business. Sure. I'd love to have you on the show. You want to come on? The world's your oyster, pal. Let's make it happen. We just recorded that conversation. So maybe we'll drop that early. We'll see. But I got to say, that was pretty cool. It was cool to make that kind of history. I love all the guests we've had, by the way. And by the way, some real flexing going on. We've had God knows. We've had Damian Woody on the show, Leger Douzable, Connor Rogers, Connor Hughes, Trevor Sikkema. I mean, we've had so many superstars on this year, and there's still time. We're going to get a bunch of new phenomenal guests on until the draft. So make sure you guys check out the channel. Again, like the video, hit subscribe down below, and feel free to check it out on our playlist. It's Path to the 2022 NFL Draft. Phenomenal. We've had amazing guests and more guests to come. All right, let's jump in on some of the YouTube comments here. Let's see. All right, let's go to your boy, Hojo. Been a while. Hope you're getting some sleep with the little one. Carl Lawson looks like a killer, and absolutely he does. We'll get into that in just a minute. And I am getting some. I will say that it's been a learning experience with the child here at home. She's in the other room as I record the podcast. I got to say, the mother is doing a phenomenal job. My fiance, Tatiana Davis, she's holding down the fort as I do a variety of jobs. I do some work with the Syracuse Mets, which is the AAA affiliate of the New York Mets. I work at the radio station. I do the Jets digital job. I do this podcast. I have so many jobs. It's unbelievable, and I love it. It's a blessing. But she holds down the fort at home, and I couldn't be more happy with that. She's been more than I could have ever imagined. So I'm getting some great sleep. Her not so much, but that's the sacrifice. Am I right or am I right? But welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the show. So appreciate that. And yes, Carl Lawson, part of our intro is that a great doctor, okay, and his Twitter following is Dr. underscore Reef, excuse me. And Carl Lawson, there's some footage, some live footage of Carl Lawson. Remember, he had the ruptured Achilles last year, and it was kind of like, oh boy, what are we going to be getting from Carl Lawson this year? Well, this new footage that was released with both photo and video on Instagram shows Carl Lawson, in my mind, looking pretty damn good. He was doing pull-ups. He was doing water workouts. And again, this is from a very interesting doctor, Dr. underscore Reef, who is Leger Dusable's doctor. Remember, he joined us on the channel a little while back. And he told me about this guy, and he is phenomenal. And he works with, his name is Sharif Taba, Dr. Sharif Taba of Athletics Rehab and Athletics Performance. So if you haven't seen it, Carl Lawson, some fresh footage, some fresh videos and pictures and things of that nature. Well, Carl Lawson in the hashtag comeback season, he's looking phenomenal. So we'll see. Fingers crossed, of course. The goal, by the way, is for him to be back by training camp for the New York Jets. Let's go to Tyrone. Welcome to the show. What's up, Jets fam? What's popping, baby? Appreciate you. Keep it simple, RC. No thank you on the Trayvon talk. I would say this, keep it simple, RC. Again, I'm not a Trayvon Walker guy. I wasn't before the conversation. I mean, Tony Pauline had some good things to say, which makes you go, makes you think. And I always say this, that you should have an open mind in the draft. Again, I'm not a Trayvon Walker guy. I don't necessarily am Kyle Hamilton in the top 10. Like, there's a couple of takes I have in my mind, but if they happen and the Jets happen to take insert player or that player, I'm open to interpretation. I'm open to my mind being changed by either smart analysts or, reality. Again, if the Jets just happen to pick this guy, I have no other choice but to accept it. But I would say, guys, before you have a take on Trayvon Walker, which I had and John Ledyard had, check out the tape. Check out the tape and check out the interview. I think those are very interesting. Oh, that's hilarious that was the same two names on your list, which, by the way, feel free to throw in the chat. Who are your names that if the Jets drafted these guys, you'd be like, ooh. Again, Trayvon Walker's on that list for me. Kyle Hamilton's on that list for me. I'm trying to think. I don't know if Jermaine Johnson's quite on that list. That's probably too aggressive, but I'm not sure on Jermaine Johnson. I love Kayvon Thibodeau. For instance, we'll get into that in just a minute. There's been a lot of Kayvon Thibodeau slander on the timeline. We'll reveal that latest slander, and we'll talk about him a little bit. But he's my favorite player in the draft. But, so I really want Kayvon, and I feel like, I feel like it's quite unlikely, maybe not, that Kayvon Thibodeau goes before the Jets are on the clock at 4. So I don't want Jermaine Johnson if Kayvon Thibodeau's there. That's kind of my take. But if you guys have it, feel free to drop it in the comments. Is there a player on your anyone but list? Against your boy had a Trayvon Walker and Kyle Hamilton, which is on my list as well. Guys, I would be like, I don't feel great about it if the Jets select those guys. But again, I would come to some sense of realization if it did. Let's keep rolling here on YouTube. Again, wherever you guys are watching, hit that thumbs up, baby. Even if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, open up a new tab, jump on over, hit thumbs up, hit subscribe for great Jets content. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. We're at like 1.26, so we're going to need a little bit of help from each and every one of you that are watching. Share with a friend. Exclusively Jets content on the channel. We don't talk about anything else on this show, so hopefully you appreciate it. Neil Glassman, Paul, we keep hearing about how there's a need for another safety. Why not take one of the two from last year's draft, Nasruddin and Sherwood, whose conversions to linebacker was at best incomplete? Neil, this is a compelling case, and I've been brought this idea up by fans in the past, and I will tell you this from the Jet side of things. They say they don't want to be herky-jerky. while I agree, I think it would be a very creative concept with players that obviously have a wealth of experience at safety, and maybe you could just flip them back and like, hey, there you go. Unfortunately, from what I understand, the Jets want to keep them at linebacker. They are very high on both Jamie and Sherwood and Hamza about making those conversions to linebacker. And to them, it's not necessarily an experiment. It is to us as we watch, but to them, they drafted them as linebackers, and that's how they're selling it. So while a creative idea, I don't believe they're going to do that. The one conversion is Jason Pinnock, who's going to be back there. From what I understand, I think he's going to stay at safety. So I guess outside of something crazy happening in the draft, it sounds like he's going to stay at safety. So you do have on one side Jordan Whitehead. The other side is probably LaMarcus Joyner, Ashton Davis, Jason Pinnock, a kind of weird battle, but I anticipate at a minimum there's going to be at least one or two more bodies added that could be as early as maybe day 2 in the draft with Scene or Daxton Hill, the Georgia guy, the Michigan guy, one of those two potentially, or they could wait for the mid rounds. But there is some Jaquan Brisker I've heard brought up. There are some safeties that are hanging out there that they could attack. But to your point, I do not believe the Jets will be going in that direction, Neil. But a good thought nonetheless. I will bring up the Kayvon Thibodeau point just real quick because it came from Matt Miller, NFL draft scout, and he does great work for ESPN. He's an ESPN NFL draft analyst. But I heard this slander, and it really just bothers me because, again, I am a diehard Kayvon Thibodeau guy. I love KT. I think he'd be a home run pick with the Jets. I think he would be a superstar unequivocally with the green and white. And I really want him, long story short, I want him to be a member of the New York Jets. I don't think I could say that in any short of terms. Again, I want him on the team. I think he would be a stud. And I'm not buying any of the crap I'm hearing personally. I just don't buy it. I just don't think it's legit. I don't think it's real. Although it's always important to share what smart people are saying. So here is the latest slander on Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. This is from Matt Miller's notebook from ESPNplus.com. Quote, more than half a dozen scouts have told me that KT did not impress in interviews with their teams. The word consistently used to describe his interviews was, quote, poor. That's a red flag. Some more here from Matt Miller on Kayvon Thibodeau. Word from sources in the league is that Thibodeau is expected to be drafted outside the top 5 picks and could even be selected outside the top 10. And I added this to the thread that I would literally shit a brick if somehow, some way, the Jets got Kayvon Thibodeau at number 10. I would literally have a baby. I would literally have a baby right here if that happened. First off, it would be nerve-wracking because obviously if they don't take Kayvon Thibodeau at 4, that would be how he could potentially be available at 10. So they would go in some other direction, Ike Ekwonu, whoever, right? And there would be a panic, right? Because, oh my God, Kayvon Thibodeau's on the clock. Oh my God, he's there at 4. And then they go somewhere else. I'm like, no, man, I wanted Kayvon. This is terrible. And then like you're sweating beads as you're getting closer to 10, right? And Kayvon's still on the board. I'm like, what? No way. No way. And if they got him, it'd be like, whoa! It'd be like the craziest reaction in history if they got Kayvon Thibodeau at 10. I don't think that's realistic. Again, I'm not buying any of the bull crap that's flown out there. I think Kayvon Thibodeau is a stud, and I think he will be drafted accordingly. That's my opinion. No inside sources, just that's kind of my take. Let's see. Keep it simple, RC. We've taken too many projections. Dwayne Robertson, Vernon Golston, Kyle Wilson. Kyle Wilson. I remember Kyle Wilson out of Boise State. And Vernon Golston, I still have that jersey in the back of the closet. So feel free to share those jerseys as well. Do you have any jerseys you regret? I have Jason Morrow in the closet. Not great. Vernon Golston. Not great. I mean, I love the number 5'6". It seems like a really good defender, edge rusher number. So I still wear the jersey every once in a while because I'm not burning jerseys. I'm not lighting money on fire. I don't care. I have a few jerseys and I'm kind of like, ugh, I guess I'm wearing this. But you know what? I'm not burning jerseys, baby. So, yeah. So I got a couple of those in the closet. Jason Marr is one of them. What another terrible one. That's another good point by Joe on YouTube because we need a free safety ball hawk, not another strong safety play in the box. So again, the versatility factor, although according to Robert Saleh down at the NFL owners meetings, he says they're pretty interchangeable. While on the surface, you talk about that, both a box safety like a coverage safety, he says with the responsibilities, while there are some nuances to their job specifications that he says they are somewhat interchangeable. So keep that in mind. And yes, they do. Dwayne Robertson, Vern Golston, those names absolutely hurt. And like I said, Jason Morrow, Christian Hackenberg, those are like second rounders that didn't go as well, which there's less skin in the game on those as opposed to first round picks, obviously, but those ones hurt too. Keep it simple, RC. Have you heard anything about JD moving Becton for more draft capital? This is a topic we addressed with Tony Pauline, actually, because his reporting is the one that initially sent Jet fans fleeing in the streets. Because according to Tony Pauline's reporting, which, by the way, he joined us, that will either drop on Monday or earlier. Again, we will see. We'll see what the great fans want. Do we drop the episode early or not? But this topic was addressed about moving Becton potentially. To me, I don't think there's any way in hell if you're going to move Becton, which again makes this really complicated because on April 18th, the Jets report for offseason training activities, which is coming up obviously in 12 days. If he shows up out of weight and you try to trade him, well, what possibly could be his draft stock or trade potential rather? Okay, and if you trade him before the draft, oh boy, we know that he's fat. And again, this is hypothetical. Like, oh boy, we know he's out of shape. Like, we need to trade him ASAP. Then everyone in the draft immediately knows, oh, shoot, the Jets are looking for an offensive tackle. So you don't want to really reveal your card. So for me, if a Becton trade was going to happen, it would be Josh Rosen-ish. And what I mean by that is, remember, there was a lot of chutzpah that the Cardinals would take Kyler Murray. But when they actually took him and Josh Rosen, the former top 10 pick from the year prior, was still on the roster, it was like, oh boy, this is awkward. So it's a complicated game because you reveal Cardinals are different because they had the number 1 pick. So they had no one to smoke out. The Jets are at 4. That's where it's different. But there's so many, ripple effects to your decisions. If you trade Becton early, you obviously are going for tackle, which is never a good thing because then everyone in the draft knows what you're doing and they can then leapfrog you. Texans would love to trade back. So you don't want to get cock blocked from that sense. Potentially something like that happening. So for me, though, what I project is if you're going to trade Becton, which I don't think they will, but if you are, you would do it after you secure your guy. So if you draft Icky, then you're like, okay, now we have the replacement because you don't want to trade somebody away and not have the replacement ready because there is a realistic possibility that Icky goes before the Jets go at 4 and then you're screwed. And then not only do you trade away Becton, but now you got Connor McDermott and George Fant. Gross. So again, that's where you could get a little bit hairy from that perspective. But I've heard nothing in terms of him being moved for draft capital. But again, you have a lot of choices there. Again, if you go potentially you draft Icky and you keep everybody and you have all 3 and you go to camp and you figure it out. Oh boy, there's a lot of things that could go south from that perspective. Let's go to Tyrone here. Linderbaum at 10 would make me sad. That would depress me, Tyrone. Again, I think Linderbaum is a fine prospect, just dandy. But again, at number 10, that would be one of the highest drafted centers. And God, I had the stats in front of me the other day, but number 4 would be the highest drafted center in the modern draft era. And I think 10 would also be the highest drafted center in the modern draft era. I think the closest one to that was 12. It's been at least 30 or 40 years since that. So that to me is too aggressive. If you want Linderbaum and he starts to slip and slide down the board, you want to launch up from 35 for your center in the 20s. Okay, I can make that compelling case. And I've got a few nuggets in my notebook about writing that article in the near future. So that's possible. But Linderbaum at 10 would be wild. That'd be wild. Keep it simple, RC. I hope this is right. I heard the Jets might be the ones putting out the negative press on Kayvon Thibodeau. Whatever, man. I don't care. Whoever is creating this, great. As long as the Jets get their guy, right? If there's this trash out there, you just keep slipping, sliding to somebody else. That's not great. But okay, if you heard that, keep it simple, RC. Fine with me. Don't care. I think he's phenomenal, so I will take him. Let's go to Raw Power on YouTube. I like the Becton, Lawson, Mims workout videos, but it doesn't really mean much until they get on the field. Just fun hype videos. Let's address that because that is, of course, the headline of the video. Sorry to tease you as we're working our way 19 minutes into this live stream. So yesterday, you could go to my Twitter and check it out, @BoyGreen25. Denzel Mims dropped a little bit of a hype video. He didn't even drop it himself. It came from one of the coaches he's working with, which is David Robinson. And for that name may not sound familiar unless you're an NBA fan. It's not the same guy, by the way, no relation. But David Robinson is one of the best wide receiver coaches in the country. Okay, he's fantastic. And some of the names of his clientele on his resume are guys like Antonio Brown. You got Chris Godwin. I mean, you got some superstar names on his list, and it's part of my tweet. So you can check it out again, @BoyGreen25 to see the video. And Denzel Mims is working through some routes. So, Denzel Mims has been kind of quiet this offseason. We haven't heard a lot about him. Even, heck, during Zach Wilson's tour around the country, he's gone down to Nashville to work with Corey Davis. Went down to Miami with Braxton Berrios and Michael Carter. He's right now in the Arizona area. He was for the couple days this week, and he worked out with, of course, Denzel Mims was there, Elijah Moore, DJ Montgomery, Jeff Smith, and Jay Feely was hanging out there, which, by the way, Jay Feely and the Jets, like, I felt great about him in the middle of Jay Feely Jets time, but since Jay Feely's been a little weird, I'm not sure how I feel about Jay Feely right now, but that's neither here nor there. But Denzel Mims' hype video, essentially, he's running some routes and working with some really important people in the NFL coaching community. Some big-time NFL players are there, so check it out. That video is out. And also the other one is Mekhi Becton. He did a 400-pound bench press from the ground. So you're not getting any leg. It's just all arm, essentially. 405 pounds, boom, lifting up like nobody's business. I was like, zooey mama. So all those videos are out on my Twitter. I like kind of sharing some of those, some cool hype videos. But to your point, long story short, Mr. Potato Head Raw Power on YouTube, working our way back here. To me, I think the offseason is good for some of these fun hype videos, like Denzel Mims comeback season, Carl Lawson comeback season, Mekhi Becton comeback season. But it is true that it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot because the proof is in the pudding, baby. I think we'll be encouraged in 12 days when the Jets report for some of their offseason training activities. And we see Denzel Mims look great and some videos coming out, or Mekhi Becton steps on the scale, looks great. Carl Lawson will not be at that. He may be just visiting, but he won't be doing anything. That's not going to happen until training camp. But I agree. I think there are hype, and they should get fans wrapped up. That's what the offseason's all about. But to your point, 100%. It doesn't mean anything until they're on the field, but it is encouraging at the very least to see some of these. Special Carl Lawson coming off their torn Achilles. It's great to see him balancing on one leg and going through all those workouts. And Mims showing something in anything, quite frankly, I think is very interesting. All right, let's get to some more comments again. I see the chat is live. We got a lot of people in here, people watching. Again, like the video on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up. Don't be shy. And also hit subscribe as well. Again, we're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. We talk Jets. We talk draft. We talk free agency. We talk it all on this show. It's always a lot of fun. I love interacting with all you guys on here. Also, if you're on YouTube, feel free to do a super chat where you send a nice tip to help out the show. And we do all kinds of things with that. Getting new guests and cool new ideas. So feel free to use the super chat if you're on YouTube, and you will guarantee you get your question answered. I try to answer all of them, but sometimes we get too many in here, so you can guarantee your question gets answered if you decide to do that. Let's go to Joe Lewis here. Still hoping the Jets can land Jameson Williams. If he needs playmakers, he gives the offense much-needed juice. Joe, 1,000%. To be honest with you, I would not be surprised if he's the number 10 overall pick. I know that would be rich. I know that would shock a few people, but he's the dark horse. He's the guy that I'm like, you know what? If you squint right, I think they could go. There's a lot of risk with some of these receivers. Drake London had to push his pro day because of kind of a setback with his hamstring. Jameson Williams obviously torn ACL. So that's obviously hanging out in the ethos. You got a guy like Chris Olave, who they brought in, Garrett Wilson, who they brought in, which is interesting. And, of course, Treylon Burks, who had the bad athletic testing this offseason. So there's a lot of receivers hanging out in the mix. I like Jameson. He's one of my favorites. I love the pure speed and playmaking ability he brings to the table. Adam Stingley, by the way, another guy we brought up in the Tony Pauline interview, which, like I said, will either drop on Monday or earlier in the week. We'll see what happens with how things go. Again, his pro day, which is happening right now. I've been seeing a lot of the numbers come in on verticals and things of that nature. He's supposed to do the full pro day. You guys can give me some of the details because I'm with you, so I'm not really hopping on Twitter. But he's interesting. He's perhaps the most important player of this entire pre-draft cycle in terms of pro day. Like, he has so many questions to answer, and that 2019 tape is elite. 6 interceptions, shut people down, 15 games. Last 2 years, a lot of injuries, a lot of unknown. So, he's an interesting player. I wonder if the Jets would even consider or tickle their fancy on that. Your boy, Hojo. I'm strictly speaking of picks in the top 10. You do not draft potential projection that high. That's day 2 stuff. Unless, of course, you're just kind of in a pickle and you're not trying to play it safe. You're trying to risk it to get the biscuit. Normally, those kind of players can sometimes drop, but sometimes, the higher the risk, the greater the reward. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. Joe Campione, Watson, I'm assuming you're talking about Christian Watson, the North Dakota State wide receiver. Anyone but till the 5th round, he played nobody. Yeah, he's going to go way before that, but I respect it because that's one of the hardest comps of this entire draft. He played nobody. There's a rawness to a game, hand-eye coordination, A lot of his big time plays were, busted coverage. I think he averaged like 20 yards a catch or something, but it's because he had these limited opportunities, just massive plays. He's an athletic beast, obviously. His traits matched up against Calvin Megatron Johnson, but there's a rawness there and the level of competition. A lot of questions with Christian Watson, but someone's going to take the gamble. It's not like the Chiefs at the end of round one. There's another team early round two that takes it. It'll be interesting, but he is an interesting comp. Charles M on YouTube. We've heard a lot of talk about KT's attitude by the media, but I'd be curious to hear what his teammates thought of him. Yeah, let's go draft day on this sucker. I'll try to make as many draft day references as I can. Let's get some of his teammates. How many teammates went to his birthday party? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. So let's do some homework on that, Charles. Let's try to see what we can put together there. I heard Kayvon's like workout guy spoke with Jets X Factor. I got to still check out that interview. That sounded interesting. But I would like to hear from his teammates. That'd be interesting as well. Let's see. I had a Jamal Adams Gotham Green. I would let go for $5, a $5 Whopper combo coupon. Any takers? I still have Jamal Adams in there. That's one because most jerseys, right? So, like, I love the legends. Those ones are easy. LaDainian Tomlinson, I love that jersey in the closet. I do have a Plaxico Jets jersey in the closet. I got like Santonio Holmes, who I like a lot. Some of the players though that just fade out quick or have some sort of nasty like exit, like Jamal Adams. Like I don't feel great about wearing that. I've worn it jokingly, like for a couple Seattle games, and like when they made the big trade. I did that. That was kind of fun. But yeah, like that one, I don't feel great about when I wear. I got a couple Brett Favre jerseys in there. I've got a lot of jerseys. I got a massive jersey collection. One of these times on YouTube or something else, I'm going to have to do like a whole like show and tell of all my Jets draft hats and Jets hats and jerseys. I'll have to do a whole video showing you guys all that stuff. We'll have to do that in the future. That would be fun. I've got a massive collection. Keep it simple, RC. Thanks a lot, Boy Green. Now I'm trying to work out the logistics of how you could possibly have a baby running around in my brain. Yeah, you know what? Luckily, the baby is not old enough to be literally running around, but I'm trying to rack my own brain around it. When I, earlier today, because I do a radio show every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11. That's local sports talk radio here in Syracuse. Again, I write Jets articles on the side for Heavy on Jets. So I got radio show articles. I work with the Syracuse Mets baseball team on their broadcast team. So I've got that. We do the podcast here, video shows. So like it is an unbelievable day of plug and play, all kinds of stuff. But when I have time to kind of spend with my child, it's surreal. Just looking at a baby who's looking at you like, oh, look at the world. Like it's hard to explain as a guy who's paid to talk all the time, who can never shut up about anything. Like I'm almost speechless. Talking about a baby. So it is kind of crazy. Keep it simple, RC. I can't forgive you for this. Now I'm trying to work out the logistics for how you could possibly push out a baby. Now that one's a bit more difficult, but I guess let's get Kayvon Thibodeau a 10 and we will all figure it out together and we'll find out. So that could be interesting. Okay, RKO. Oh, love the wrestling reference, by the way. I'm a massive wrestling fan, so I enjoyed WrestleMania over the weekend. That was pretty good. We'll have to do a different podcast for our wrestling fans. But RKO 316632. Who would you compare the rookie wide receivers to in the current NFL for comparisons? Like the Pro Player Comp. We all love this. So let's see. Okay. So Jameson Williams is your Tyreek Hill. Again, some of these will not be direct comps. Like it's not like, oh, he is clearly like Tyreek Hill. Like he is the most Tyreek Hill-ish guy that I've seen. I've heard other people start making that comparison. Drake London's like a poor man's Brandon Marshall. He's big, lanky, wide frame kind of guy. He's very interesting. I've heard this one. This one isn't mine, but I've heard it from someone else. The Garrett Wilson to CeeDee Lamb, who I loved. I love CeeDee Lamb coming out a couple years ago. He was really interesting. So who else am I missing? And then Traylon Burks. Everyone says the Deebo Samuel, and I guess if you squint, you can kind of see it. But that's just like saying any receiver runs jet sweeps and kind of moves all over the formation. Of course, that's Deebo Samuel. So that one I think is kind of lazy. But he is so versatile, a versatile Swiss Army knife. He's like a souped up version of Cordero Patterson, maybe, if I'm going to throw that one out there. Now, don't let the comps like destroy you. Like Jameson Williams, ooh, Tyreek Hill, he's great. Like, ooh, Cordero Patterson, he's been kind of disappointing. Like, don't like make it direct, but those kind of make sense. So there's a couple off the top of my head, but I really love doing that. The one I will be looking forward to by the way, is Connor Rogers. And of course, if you guys are not following Connor Rogers, this isn't even about me. It's Connor friggin' Rogers, okay? He's one of the best guys in the business. You, of course, should be following him. He's going to be dropping his Jets-specific draft guide. It'll be version number 2. I'm actually going to be working with the Badlands team to do a whole video. We'll talk about it. I'll show you the draft guide. We'll do a whole thing. That's coming up in a couple weeks. I believe Connor Rogers, which is funny that it drops on the same day, I believe his draft guide drops April 18th, which is the same day Jets off-season training activities start. So we'll be doing a cool, deep behind-the-scenes thing on that, I believe, with Joe Caporoso coming up in a couple weeks. So the draft is rapidly approaching. So he does player comps in there, and that's so cool, and he does it for a living. Mark Orlando dropped the interview today, baby. Enough peer pressure, and I'll do it. If you guys want the Tony Pauline interview, which has all kinds of cool scoops, some players. So I asked Tony, here's one of the questions. I said, Tony, what are you hearing? Give me some nuggets, because that's part of his job as an insider, like, sharing nuggets. And he had a couple of players that he said, watch this player to the Jets in the draft. And I went, who? What? So not like who the heck is that player? I went, wow, whoa, okie dokie. So he had some very fascinating scoops in there. So Mark, if I get enough peer pressure from the audience, I shouldn't be advocating for people to peer pressure other people. That's probably a terrible role model thing to give to the crowd. But again, enough peer pressure, and I think I may be forced to do it. So Mark, if we get enough of that, maybe I'll flip that. Johnny Quest. I used to love that show. Afraid of KT reminds me too much of Golston. I've heard a few of those. Well, not the KT. Actually, KT Golston. I've not heard of that comparison. I heard Trayvon Walker. He was compared to Golston. I did hear that. I've not heard KT. I guess what is Golston, for people who forget, he was this crazy NFL combine warrior, and he had a great season, like 14 and a half sacks or something. And then he blew up the combine, and the perfect storm combination said, ooh, Jets at 6, we take him. I wanted Darren McFadden in that draft, candidly. Matt Ryan, if he would have slipped, he didn't. I think he went number 2. But who was that? There was like Jake Long. Yeah, that was the draft, because there was Jake Long, Darren McFadden, Matt Ryan went to Atlanta. I'm trying to think. Glenn Dorsey, I believe, went to the Chiefs somewhere in there in that top 6, if I'm remembering all that off the top of my head. But I would ask you the follow-up, Johnny Quest. Why does he remind you of Golston? Because Kayvon Thibodeau, quite frankly, didn't really blow up the combine. He kind of stepped out of a lot of drills. So I don't really see that comparison. Unless you're just afraid of taking edge. I think the Jets have been for a long time, candidly. I think they were the Golston pick was the worst pick in Jets history. No questions asked. When you consider draft status, production, and everything, or lack thereof, he had 0 sacks. I think that's the worst pick in Jets history. Bar none. There have been some bad ones, obviously, but I think that's the worst. Like, he never showed anything. And imagine if that hits, those 2 AFC championship runs, they've got an elite edge rusher. Maybe they win a Super Bowl or 2, but perhaps it's a different conversation for a different day. So I'd have to hear more, Johnny, to even really consider that. Keep it simple. I hear you on the Jermaine Johnson take, but is it more palatable to you if they grab him at 10? Yes, 100%. Depending, again, because there's so many combinations of things. If you take Icky at 4 and Jermaine at 10, that is a lot more palatable for me if Jermaine's there. Again, I'm not saying Jermaine's a bust. I'm not saying he's a superstar. I'm just somewhere, but I'm just kind of meh on the guy. 23 years old, had some good pops at the Senior Bowl, good season, the weird Georgia thing. There's just stuff there. I'm just not completely sold. I can be, as I said, open conversation with people, but I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on him. But it would be, to answer your question, though, yes, 100%. It would be more palatable if Jermaine was there at number 10. That's who they took. JJ, if top 2 edges are gone at 4, why take 3rd and 4th edge when we could get the best corner? JJ, this is a great, just kind of scenario. And I bring this up all the time. And I brought this up actually a couple times during our Mock Draft Monday series, where I say this. And I say the same thing you just did. If you're the Jets and you have an obvious needed edge rusher, right? So let's say Aiden in KT, which would be the example probably, or Trayvon Walker, whoever you think, right? The 2 are off the board. Do you take 3rd or 4th best, or do you pick your litter at a position, right? Some people have been mock drafted the Jets wide receiver 4. That would stun me. I don't think if they're going wide receiver, which they very well could, I think it's at 10. I don't see any scenario it's at 4. I could be surprised. I just don't think that's going to happen. But for instance, right? Do you go wide receiver pick? Do you go offensive line pick, corner pick? There's a compelling case to be made that you get to set the tone for whatever the position is, corner, wide receiver, whatever, offensive lineman, whatever. Like, I think there's something to be said to chase that path as opposed to the other side of simply just, going in line because, I guess the only thing that should make you feel a little differently about that is, but you'll never know this. How do the Jets rank the edges compared to the other teams? Like, do the Jets have Jermaine Johnson at number one? So if they take him at 4, they're like, oh, wow, we got the number one guy anyway. I mean, they're going to say that because they wouldn't admit to saying, well, this was our fourth choice anyway. Like, that would be stupid to say out loud. But, I don't know. That's a compelling case, though, because I like Sauce, and then depending on how people feel about Stingley, I think there's a conversation to be had. JJ, it's a very good thought. It is a very good thought. Let's go back to Harold H. If you like JJ, you should like Trayvon Walker. JJ transferred to FSU and goes from 5 to 11.5. Trayvon Walker had 6 last year. You unleash him into pass rushing, and he'll explode. I do not like JJ, so maybe that makes sense why I don't like JJ or Trayvon Walker for that matter, perhaps. But I like the progression that you talk about, and maybe they will just explode. Maybe they're going to be superstars. And I've also heard that, from Connor Rogers that Jermaine is excellent against the run, which obviously that would help. All right, here comes the peer pressure. I'm seeing this right now, so let's go through. All right, we got Johnny, drop it today. Do it. All right, we got Harold, drop the Pauline video, bro. Peer pressure, it's all coming in now. Peer pressure, peer pressure. Okay, I love it. Okay, there's a lot of chutzpah here. We'll see. I'm leaning. There's a lot of love here. Matt Morris, we need to move back, pick up future picks, grab top wide receiver and a top 10 edge, maybe a Linderbaum also. Yeah, that's the perfect scenario. I think the receiver that will first come off the board, if it's going to happen, will be 8, and you have 10, so you pick 4. So let's try to play out your scenario. So top 10 edge, so you take that probably 4th overall. You move back from 10 to I don't know, the Saints maybe, if they're willing to move up to 10, and then if you could somehow get 16 and 19, now we're just playing like God here, but man, or maybe Saints trade up to 4 for 16, 19 future second. They get 4, you get 16, 19, 10, you go wide receiver, 16, 19, you go other edge, who is who is that? Who's there? Man, that's a dangerous game. But I like how you're thinking. Then you have Linderbaum, all the options are on there. That's interesting. But man, that's where we get a little crazy. Let's see. Okay, RKO. Let's go back to Gengar, which, by the way, huge Pokemon fan, by the way. People were asking about this, so there you go. Got the Pokemon tattoo. Pikachu with the hat backwards. I got a couple tattoos. We got the, yep, I was about to say that would be embarrassing. Wrong arm. Got the family crest. So I got a couple tattoos. I am a tattoo guy. I like tattoos. If NYJ does take Kayvon at 4 and the Juice Gardner and Garrett Wilson are available at 10, who would your pick be? Oh, Gengar, you're horrible. Okay, so Kayvon, I love that pick, obviously. Gardner or Garrett Wilson. Oh, my God. If a gun to my head, I'd probably go Gardner, because then that's where you can trade up for wide receiver, because I feel like after Stingley Gardner, the cornerbacks are do you like McDuffie, Roger McCreary? Where do you go on corner? So I probably go Gardner, which I love the double dip on defense. I've talked about this being a dream scenario. And then from 35, you start hunting immediately to jump back up and do almost whatever it takes. That's a little rich, but whatever it takes, really, within range, to grab Garrett Wilson, Drake London, any receiver that slips of the top 4, really. And the top 4 to me are Jamison Williams, Drake London, Traylon Burks, and Garrett Wilson. If you can, Chris Olave, again, I'm to me, he's a firm 5th, but if you like Olave, who they just had visit the facilities, I can understand that. But that's a perfect draft for me. Kayvon Thibodeau, Sauce Gardner, and then trade up for that wide receiver. Boom! And there's still more draft to go. Obviously, you have 9 picks, but that's not too shabby. So RKO, very nice. Very nice. Matt Morse, JJ Walker getting way overhyped. I am currently on that bandwagon, to be honest with you. And Matt Morris agreeing with me. There's value in the DB room, so you could wait on DB if you want. Actually, he doesn't agree with me because I said Sauce first, but you could wait potentially on a corner. That's possible, or defensive back in general. All right, let's go to Chris2485 on YouTube. Again, make sure you guys, I see all you guys in here, like the video, hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. We only got a couple weeks to do that, so tell a friend. Before we started this video, we're at 1.26K. Let's get to 2K. It's 800 people. I don't know what the math is on that, but we need 800 more people. That's a lot of beeps. But let's see if we could get there. That'd be a lot of fun, everybody. If we take Wilson in the first and Pickens in the second, and Mims reaches his full potential, which wide receiver is the odd man out? I don't think they double dip like that, to be honest with you. If they go, I like the thought. It's creative. If you go because I like Pickens too out of Georgia. But if you go wide receiver in the first round, I think you don't get another wide receiver until the mid rounds, especially like if you pick Jameson Williams, who you think may not be ready at the start, and you have another guy to fill his place. And the Mims video, obviously, if he comes out and he's your 3, 4, 5, then okay, not bad, somewhat salvageable instead of just trading and dumping him for something. So I don't think they do that. But in your scenario, let's just play it out, I guess. Mims obviously would be, well, reaches your full potential. I guess what does that mean? So there's a lot of what ifs. But, well, obviously your first or second round pick isn't the odd man out. So it would inevitably have to be Mims. But maybe if Mims reaches full potential, balls out in camp or something, then his draft value is back high and you ship him off to the highest bidder. So I guess that would be the answer to your question. 5.5 wins says Vegas doesn't like Wilson. Oof. Yikes. Yeah, not ideal. I guess not. Hey, proof will be in the pudding to me. J-Mac on YouTube. Sauce at 4, no question. Trade 10 for DK or AJ, or stay at 10 for Wilson, London, or Walker. That is a strong argument there. Again, I like Sauce at 4. And hey, Tony Pauline says he's a legitimate option, if I do remember correctly. We came right over from the interview, so I don't have all my notes from the Tony Pauline interview. You guys will have to watch that to get all those. But yeah, if you could trade 10 again for one of those proven wide receivers, I would be interested. Now, Tyrone, you're a wild man. Would I consider double dipping at edge with 4 and 10? No, I would not. I mean, outside, I guess anything is possible. If somehow, like, you take Aiden Hutchinson at 4, I don't think that's possible. But if somehow he's there and then Kayvon's there at 10, then you go, hell, BPA bastards, like you go. But I think a more realistic scenario is like, let's say KT at 4, right? And then a guy I love, Love. It is infatuated love. Is Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. I think he's a freak. I think he's super good. The Jets coached him at the Senior Bowl. I just think there's so many connections there, and I love the talent, love the athleticism, love the player, and I think he could be way better in the NFL than he was in college. That's a double dip I like. Now, double dipping in general in the draft, they 100% should. I would be surprised if they didn't. But 4 and 10, that would be incredibly aggressive. I'm sure Salah would do a dance, but it's hard to envision a scenario where that's possible. But I like the thought, Tyrone. I like the thought. Matt Morris, okay, you're jumping on my bandwagon here. You love Mafe. I love Mafe. Ebiketie out of Penn State. He's very good. Yeah, there's a lot of really good edges in this class. Some of the other last names are more common. That's harder. Mafe, Ebiketie. You don't run into many of those. The Thomas and Williams. I'm not sure who you're referencing there specifically. But yes, Mafe I love. Ebiketie I love. Ebiketie was a recent mock draft for Todd McShay, which, by the way, I guess let's share the Todd McShay mock draft that came out this week, which I thought was pretty interesting. It was a lot of defensive love, which, quite frankly, the Jets need. So I can't really complain, quite frankly, about that. Yeah, here was the Todd McShay mock that dropped earlier this week. He had Garrett Wilson at number 4. Ohio State wide receiver. Again, that seems hard to believe. But number 10, Ahmad Sauce-Gardner, phenomenal. 35, Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State, great. And Quay Walker, which, by the way, he's one of the crazy risers in this mock right now. Some people believe he could be the first linebacker off the board, which, again, would make you go, zoinks, huh? Who? What? What are we talking about here? Especially since you got Nakobe Dean, Devin Lloyd, like Quay Walker, like, whoa, mamacita. That would be kind of interesting. Let's go a couple more right now. Charles, there could be a bigger upside to grabbing 2 receivers in the draft rather than trading and paying money for a top 5. Imagine having the bulk of your wide receiver core and rookie deals for the next 4 years. Charles, a compelling case. And again, I'm not going to be mad if they decide to say, you know what, screw, or it just can't happen, right? They say, screw the DKAJ thing. We're going to just draft their own guys. They go like I said, Jameson Williams at 10 and go, I don't know, like Khalil Shakir in the 3rd round. Just a kind of a random example, but I could see that. And then again, financially, it makes a lot of sense. The only concern I have with that plan, again, I would be excited about it. We'd be on here and we'd be popping bubbly and shooting fireworks. My only problem with that is there's some transition from college. There's going to be some transition. Now, some maybe less than others, but that's the concern. Zach Wilson needs guys right now that can help. I think too much of a transition, too much of waiting. Like, you need guys that can help immediately, and I think that'd be a concern. Let's see. JJ, am I the only one concerned? Most of our offensive line likely aren't long-term answers. Besides ABT and maybe Becton, and Becton is because of the health, is a maybe. I'm assuming is an if. Yeah, to your point. So let's go through them. Right. So George Fant's up in the air. I think the Jets are going to wait till this. Is another story from this week. I believe the Jets and George Fant have talked contract extension. But I don't believe if they've come to like, oh, maybe this we'll revisit in a couple weeks. I don't think you make that decision till after the draft. Because if you drafted Icky or something, that changes your conversation to me. But if you go after the draft and really you don't have any long-term answer at tackle, I expect the Jets to fully, maybe this will be a hot take, I fully expect them to take an offensive tackle within the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. Whether that's at 4, 10, 35, 30, I think that's going to happen, assuredly. I said that last week. And because Mekhi Becton, as you just said, is uncertain. George Fant's entering the last year of his deal, and the next tackle on the depth chart is Connor McDermott. Yikes. So I think they're 100% going that direction. But to talk about the overall line for a second, so ABT obviously is a building block. Becton, you hope is, but that's hope. Connor McGovern is not. George Fant, depending on what you do at the draft, is probably not either. So, yeah, there are obviously some long-term holes missing. The overall starting offensive line on paper right now, though, in whatever order, right? You have Becton, Fant at tackle. Okay. You got ABT at guard. Okay. Laken Tomlinson is the other one you didn't mention, which would be somewhat long-term with this multi-year deal you feel pretty good about. And then Connor McGovern, although I think you can upgrade center and then move on from Connor McGovern or keep him as depth. I think there's kind of a lot of options there potentially. So I think the offensive line is pretty solid right now. Matthias, if no pass rush, I go Sauce. Not bad either. I've heard a lot of things about Gordon, so Gordon could be an option. The Washington corner, that could be interesting. Okay, here's a scenario from Caden Smith. Boy Green, thoughts on KT at 4, trading down from 10 to 20 with Pitt, getting a second and third this year and a first next year, drafting Kobe Dean at 20, trading up into the mid-20s for Chris Olave. You're just a mad scientist, Caden. I love it. So KT at 4, obviously, I've said that a lot. I love KT. Trading down from 10 to 20, perfectly on the table. Second, third, and a first, beautiful value. That's terrific. And any team trading up has to overpay. So I love that. I love the future first. I love the second and third. And then trading back up because you would still have 35 and 38 to get Nakobe Dean, who I love. Has been compared to Jonathan Vilma, who's a great favorite of mine. And or Nakobe Dean at 20 and then trading up for Chris Olave. Wow. There's a lot of firework happening there, but in your plan, right? So you solve pass rusher in theory. You grab a linebacker who I love, and you trade up for your wide receiver. Yeah, that's a crazy scientist thing, but that's not a bad plan. I like it. Very, very aggressive. Very aggressive. Keep it simple, RC. Obviously, yep. If Mims is a goner, if he does not show up in camp, can't deny that. Oh, Vinny and the Jets do a great follow on social media. Of course, Subboy Green, fair to say Seattle's being spiteful by refusing to trade DK to the Jets. Here's the thing I would say, because there's been a lot of questionable reporting on that. So there's a Seattle radio station people that said, oh, boy, the Jets offered number 10. The Seattle said, no thanks. That's not true, according to Connor Hughes. I texted him and asked him about the report. I said, hey, is this real or not? I just wanted to get his thoughts. He told me not, and then he tweeted out what he tweeted out. So I don't think it's just the Jets. I think they're refusing calls in general. Like the Jets called about DK Metcalf. That is 100% true. But I just don't. I don't buy. It's just sure. Again, let's try and answer it. If I'm Seattle, of course I say no to the Jets. Hell no. We just got embarrassed on the Jamal Adams trade. So yes, they. As an emotional person, if I was Seattle, hell no. If I'm trading DK Metcalf, I'm trading him anywhere else on the planet. Because we would be a joke. It's the draft day scene, right? Of trading the pick, and then Bo Callahan, all of a sudden, he's getting all these pitchforks and craziness at his front gate. Like, that's what people would be doing actually in Seattle if that happened. So that would be spiteful. But I don't think they are being. I think, again, I think he can be had. We'll make that for what it is as we're building our way up to the draft. But no, I think they would be doing that. I don't think they are in this case. No. If they trade him somewhere else, then yeah, because no one can beat the Jets. The Jets offer of basically number 10 overall, if they offer it, no one can beat no one. No one can beat that. No one in the NFL will beat that offer. So if they don't do it then obviously, yes, it was in spite. But no one can beat that offer on the planet. Okay, let's see. Matt Moore's taking the over on wins on 5.5. Me too. I feel very confident. I'm an optimistic guy by nature, but I feel very confident. Again, we have to see what happens in the draft. Let's see. RKO probably, and I love RKO joining and all the new people. I see a lot of new names in here. That's really cool. So thank you so much, everybody. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. Probably not an important issue for most, but any chance Joe Douglas used a late round pick on the best kicker in college? Kicker has been a huge weakness for Gang Green since Myers left. I would actually say this, RKO, and I actually wrote about this earlier this morning. I think they're good right now with Eddie Pinheiro and Greg Zuerlein. They're going to let them battle it out. I think that's fine. Great competition is good. I think if we're going to invest a draft selection in a position, why not punter? Because I was looking at some Braden Mann numbers last year and gross. I mean, he ranked outside the top 20. I think it was 24th in just normal average for punting. So that's not good. And then in terms of punt inside the 20, he ranked like 30th or 27th. I mean, it was god awful. So if we're going to give competition, maybe to punter. Like, why do we let Thomas Morstead go, who, by the way, is visiting the Dolphins today? Like, boy, yeah, if we're going to invest, maybe it should be a punter. Although, maybe just sign a guy instead of using a pick. But either or. No, I don't think so on kicker, though. Ever since Greg Zuerlein signing him and retaining Pinheiro, I don't believe they'll use an asset at kicker. Maybe punter, though, is what they should. J-Mac, sauce at 4. We need to shut down Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, etc. Yes, I think the Jets, this may be a hot take too. The Jets run a lot of zone, but I think they run a lot of zone because their corners have sucked and they didn't trust them. So I think they would run more man with better talent. That's my take on it. So, yeah, that can't hurt. So I'm all for adding more corner talent. Matt Morris, grab an edge in the 5th or later if you doubled it. The class is deep enough for you to do that. Again, if the right situation presents itself, Boye Mafe at 35-38, that would be too tempting for me to pass on. Too tempting whatsoever. But the Jets have a lot of needs, so I could understand that. Your boy, don't know if it's fake, but I just got a DM about KT having some off-the-field incident. A judge just ruled to make the report public, not confirmed. Zoinks! Like, yeah, we'll have to look back into that one. That sounds wild. I can't really comment on that. 200,000 or 20,000 I can't see on the screen. Vegas put out on the Jets winning the Super Bowl is worth a few bucks. You never know. Sure. Again, they could have that Bengals-like leap. That's possible. Green Truth. I love that. Welcome to the show, man. They need to double dip at wide receiver first round or third round or second and third round. Possibly. That's possible. First and third, that would probably be rich because, first is obviously probably 10 and then third is 69. That's a lot because you think about all the needs in no specific order. So offensive tackle, 100%. And offensive line in general, quite frankly. Power, and this is in no particular order. So you have offensive lineman, power running back, I think they need, wide receiver. I think they're going to take another swing at tight end. Let's see. So you got edge rusher, obviously, linebacker, corner, safety. Woof. You get my point, obviously, when you go through all these names. Let's see. Johnny, nobody outside of Jet folks think highly of Wilson. Did you hear some of these comments? Destroyed the kid. Zach Wilson, I'm assuming is who you're talking about. I don't think that's true. I think who's our Zach Wilson people? Sims in the I think NBC is where he's at now. Sims is a massive Wilson fan. There are a couple Wilson fans out there, but again, whether they're fans or not fans, it doesn't matter. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, Zach Wilson has to step up to the plate. So no matter what anyone thinks. J-Mac, I will aggressively push back on this. Not that I'm some sort of Christian Hackenberg fan, because obviously I'm not. But while he may be the worst pick in your spiel or pitch for why he is he never played a snap, to me, again, he was still a second-round pick, 50th overall. Like Vernon Golson was the 6th overall pick in the draft. Massive expectations for that kind of player. I mean, Hackenberg's up there, but I just don't think he's on the same level of Golston. Charles, I think we've seen Mims full potential, full of beep. That's good. I hope not, obviously, but it has not been good, obviously. It has not been good. More likes, dude. Yes, more likes, people. We've got like 80 people in the chat. I have no idea what the likes are up to, but people, if you're watching, hit the thumbs up button, baby. Show your support for the channel. It does make a tremendous difference, I will say. Again, my name is Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. If you don't know who I am, I do weekly live streams. We do fun video interviews with popular big-time guests. If you don't believe me, check the list. Path to the 2022 NFL Draft. We've got some big names on that list. Like I said, Damian Woody joined us on the show. Leger Douzable, Connor Hughes, Connor Rogers, Trevor Sikkema. So many big names. Check them out for yourself. Flex with those kind of guests, baby. That's what we do on the show. So please make sure you show your support. Let's see. Yeah, keep it simple, RC. According to Howard Eskin, Seattle isn't listening to offers for DK. I don't know if that's an updated report or the one for this morning. Connor Hughes shut that down. So, but I do believe, by the way, that I think they're shutting the phone, but I think it's shutting the phone like they would do it. Like AJ Brown, I don't know about that one. I mean, Connor Hughes just said that he's more likely than DK, which surprises me. But I think if any of them are going to happen, is DK. Raw Power, did you catch a Samini interview on Asman? Tried to say Wilson is a slim shot at being good based on his rookie play, and the associated statistics seem to be trying to prove his opinion. Yeah, I did not hear the Rich Samini interview on the Jake Asman show. I love Jake Asman, so I will check that out after. But I will say this. According to the numbers, I didn't hear the Samini interview, so I can't speak to all of those details. But I've heard from people that say that based on what Wilson was not able to do in his rookie year, that, according to some of those advanced metrics, I've seen some of them. Again, I have to listen to the Samini take. I've not heard that candidly. But that's a lot of people say he will not be good. And it's fine. History tends to repeat itself. I can understand why people make that. But it's also fair for context that, remember, Rich Samini was a Sam Darnold believer. He said that you should keep Sam Darnold, either take Jamar Chase with the number 2 pick, and again, that may have worked out very nicely, or trade back for a king's ransom like the 49ers did at 3 for like multiple first-round picks and put yourself in a great position. That was Rich Samini's take. Obviously, the Jets chose not to do that, and maybe Rich Samini has some opinion where he's like, hey, man, I'm trying to prove I was right. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Didn't hear the interview, but you know what? Again, the proof is in the pudding. Wilson's got to prove it. So regardless of whatever anyone's take is, but I've not seen the interview. I will try to do that. Hawk, double dip at edge is a move. I don't know why we're putting all our chips into a guy who had 3 season-ending injuries and didn't play a snap last year. Edge is the most important position in Salah's defense. 1,000%. Again, I am super high on Carl Lawson. If you watched my videos last year, I was begging the Jets to sign him. They did. I celebrated. Love Carl Lawson. But the fact of the matter is he's never had a double-digit sack season. He's had some injury concerns, and he's coming off a very serious Achilles injury. He looks great. The tape looks good. The workouts look fine. But to me, you can't rely on Carl Lawson. You have to hope for the best, expect the worst. You've got to expect nothing. So you got to attack the position as if you have nothing. If he gives you something, then it's gravy. But not. I don't know. I just can't do that. Let's go through the rest of these really quick. And again, any final comments or super chats you want to send in, I'll get those questions in. But let's look through the rest of these real quick. Joe Campione, Burks and Olave are my favorite scheme fits for the Jets after a trade down. Not opposed to that. Edward, the Jets have a huge need at interior defense line. I'm thinking trading down and picking up Jordan Davis if he's available. I don't think it's as big of a need as that. I'd be fine on like round 3. Again, I don't like the interior defensive line argument. Edge, I think, is a bigger need. Let's see. Will smell that like button. That may have been one of the most creative things I've heard. So smack that, as Will Smith would do. That's hilarious. That's a good one, Mike G. JD would draft Arizia. I'm probably butchering the name. I've heard Jets people giving me this punter over and over again, so maybe I got to jump on the bandwagon there. Green Truth, I like Dean's fire and motor, but he will need to stay clean in the NFL. Too small, about to play against the best football players. Easy to be small in college. That's true. Another smaller linebacker I liked a couple years ago, Zaire Franklin at Syracuse, obviously. He just lasted in the NFL for a long time with Indianapolis. Obviously not a full-time starter, but interesting. Let's see this. Christopher Sullivan on YouTube. Salah talks about line edge. We haven't had a legit edge since 2005. Of course, John Abraham. Jets need an edge at 4-10. No more projects. That's fine. I am not opposed to that. Hawk. Edge at 4, edge at 10, wide receiver 35, linebacker 38. That'd be aggressive. Again, I don't think the Jets double dip at edge in the top 2. But feel free, and your boy, feel free at BoyGreen25. If I miss any of your questions, again, I don't want to miss your questions. I try to do all of this. Make sure you can tag me on Twitter if I miss any of your questions. We're about to wrap up here, but if I miss any of your questions, I'd love to get to them at BoyGreen25 on Twitter, and I'll try to get to you guys. Let's see. Oh, Johnny Lamb Jones. What a reference. In the old first round wide receivers. I love doing that when the Jets pick is finalized at the end of the year. I'm like, oh, what have they done with this pick in the past? And Johnny Lamb Jones. That's a good one. Let's go. Christopher, will Jets make an attempt at Cooks? Texans want a second, but probably could be had at 69. To me, a second is disgusting. I would never send a 35 or 38 for Brandon Cooks. Again, Brandon Cooks is an underrated receiver, a bunch of 1,000-yard campaigns with some crappy quarterbacks and some good quarterbacks. There is no way in hell. If 69, maybe. Okay, now we're talking, but there is a 0% chance at 35 or 38. Ridiculous. I think that price is out of this world. Let's see. Oh, Blair Thomas Awards. That's a compelling argument. That's a compelling argument. 100%. If the Jets don't end up with a pass rusher in some form or fashion, the draft was a bust. No question about it. Thank you for the comment. Let's see. Favorite receiver in this draft? Drake London is my guy right now, but I can be sold on any of the four of Jameson Williams, Drake London. God, I always get this messed up. So let's go in order. So Drake London, Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks, or Garrett Wilson. Those four. Any of those four, I'm happy. I'm leaning Drake London, though. Corey Washington, do you think Stingley is a trade back option? Yes, trade back or trade up. Trade back from 10 or up from 35, depending on how far he slips. 1,000%. Let's see. And Joe Lewis, hope you consider dropping that Tony Pauline video today. I have strongly considered it. We will see. I may just do it. Folks. There's been a lot of pushing. All right, that's all of the questions I think I got to. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we do this live stream every single week. New episodes every Wednesday and new mock draft Mondays. Every Monday, of course, at 8 a.m. with cool guests. We've been doing it all the way from the end of the Jets season. We will do it through the NFL draft, not just in the pre, but also the post, of course, as well. So, again, feel free to check it out. Please show your support for the channel. It means the world. I plug it a lot during these conversations, but we're trying to grow the channel. Like I said, prior to this live stream, we're at 1.26. I'm trying to get to 2K. If you're new to the channel and you want to show your support, like I said, thumbs up, hit the subscribe. It would be amazing. And like I said, my fingers are crossed to get it to 2K. By the way, I will be on the Jets panel for the draft. That'll be happening on day 2, I believe. So I'll be there with Green Bean and Matt O'Leary. That should be a lot of fun. And we'll be trying to do some of our own cool creative stuff for the draft as well. So hope you guys love it. All right, everybody, that's going to sign us off here for the Jet Zone. Again, a weekly New York Jets podcast right here on Sports War Radio, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. And enjoy the Tony Pauline interview, which will be coming to you guys very, very shortly right here on my channel. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.